Thank you all very much for being here this afternoon. We really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to participate in today's session. We're really excited to be talking about the first year of the College of Public Health Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, aka SoTL Circle, the faculty learning community that we had within the college that kicked off in the fall. And so we are working to really boost the opportunities for people to learn about and to engage in this kind of work. We see it as an opportunity for people to advance their professional development, to gain greater understanding about their own work, the impact of their work, and also to help the College of Public Health in advancing its reputation within our professions, with our students and with prospective students, for being a leader in delivering impactful, innovative teaching. So what I'd like to do by starting off is we have a number of members of our inaugural class of SoTL Circle members. I wanted to give each of you an opportunity to introduce yourselves, the programs that you're teaching in, and just share a sentence or two about the project that you sought to develop through your enrollment in the circle. So we'll get things started. Maybe Kathy.
Okay. Hi, I am Kathy Flight. For those of you who don't know me, I teach in the Masters of Science in Health Informatics and also in our Bachelor's of Health Information Management programs in HSAP. And my SoTL project really stems from a trend that I've observed among our HIM undergraduates, that they often prioritize their technical skills over communication skills, writing and verbal skills. So my project really aimed at addressing, trying to integrate technology with communication by leveraging AI. And so I'm studying in this particular SoTL project, the HIM students' perspective of the impact of AI in communication skills. And I was glad to be part of it. Thanks.
Sorry, Lisa.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Ferretti. I am from the School of Social Work. I teach in the master's and the bachelor's programs there. My SoTL project started out in one place and really ended up somewhere else, which is, I think, one of the great things that happened as a result of being a part of the SoTL Circle. So I highly recommend it. But I came to the SoTL Circle to really look at a trend that I was seeing and working with some of my other colleagues around how ungrading impacts student engagement. And, you know, myself and several other colleagues have been developing some ungrading assignments and trying to really look at this a little more systematically. And so that's really why I joined the circle, was to really hear from others about how they were doing that. And also, I mean, I think in truth, like, we've talked about this in social work for a while, but it's really good to talk to people from other disciplines, because I think I learned a lot, like, listening to my colleagues from other disciplines. And I think sometimes we can get into a little groupthink in our own domains. So it was really beneficial and really actually reshaped the project quite a bit. And I'm still working on that and now have a bunch of other people engaged in it. So yeah, it was a great experience and I was happy to do it.
Thank you. Ryan.
Hey everyone, I am Ryan McKee from the Department of Social and Behavioral Sciences. I am in my second year here full time, and one of the things that one of the classes that I teach is the undergraduate program planning, community health program planning course, and it's a 2-semester capstone course in the program that was developed, I think, in 2018. And when it was developed, there was some literature published about the development of the course. And since then, I believe some other schools of public health or public health departments have sort of picked up that idea and integrated a similar style of capstone course. And what has happened over the years is that in SBS, we have developed a introduction to public health writing course that students will take before they take the capstone course. So I was interested in kind of revisiting that early literature um, on the program planning course and seeing how the introduction of this writing course influences grades, influences writing, and how students are doing now that they're taking that class before it in comparison to previous years. So started out kind of easy with my SoTL project this semester, which is basically we're comparing APA scores on an APA quiz from previous cohorts to this cohort that's gone through the writing class, where they have been introduced to APA style pretty extensively in that writing course to see if the scores have improved, and if so, pardon me, I have a bit of a cold this morning. If the scores have improved, can we maybe use some of the time that we were teaching APA in the program planning course and devote it to other areas if they're getting that in the writing course, if they're getting to where they need to be before they get to us.
Great, thanks, Ryan. And before Benjamin introduces himself, I also want to just say one other person who was integral in bringing together today's session, as well as the SoTL Circle to the College of Public Health, who's unable to be here today, is Jamie Manzel, who has another significant commitment this afternoon. But I did want to take a moment to acknowledge her vital leadership and support for bringing the circle to life. And she's also a member of the CPH Teaching Excellence Committee. She's our Associate Dean for Undergraduate Affairs, and she decided to be a member of the inaugural class of the SoTL Circle. And to me, that choice shows how important she sees conducting high quality teaching scholarship, that it can be for her as a faculty member and her continued professional growth, for the program's impact on student learning, to advancing our college's teaching and scholarship missions. And so with that, I do want to turn things over to Benjamin to introduce himself. I love the fact that you have Paley in your picture behind you, duly noted. And also, if you could, in addition to introducing yourself, just tell us a little bit, just give a brief background for those who may not have much experience with SoTL about SoTL and about the structure of the SoTL Circle.
Sure, of course. Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. If it's okay, I just have a few slides to share. I'll share my screen if that's okay with everyone. Let me just hope that this works. Okay, you can all see the full slides. Okay, so thank you to the College of Public Health, to Ross, to Jamie, to my SoTL Circle colleagues, and to everyone here this afternoon. It's an honor and privilege to be invited and to continue this partnership between the Center for the Advancement of Teaching and the College of Public Health. And so I am Benjamin Brock. I am the CATS Assistant Director for the Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, and I'm also an adjunct associate professor over at the College of Education and Human Development. So just very briefly, I would like to just, as Ross said, just very briefly review what SoTL is, its benefits, highlight what a SoTL Circle will look like, could look like, will most likely look like, and just note some resources to help you along the way in addition to the programming that we're talking about. So simply put, SoTL is research focused on our teaching, our students' learning, their development, and their experience in our classroom. So it is reflective. It's going to begin by looking at, our teaching practices and our students' progression and their development in our classroom. We're going to intentionally design our project, right? We're going to make logical, methodological decisions based upon the purpose, the scope, our goals for the study, what we find in the literature, the gaps, etc. It's going to be problem-based, okay? It's going to aim to identify an issue that's going to advance our understanding of our own pedagogical practices while also generating dialogue about teaching and learning. Of course, like with all scientific research, it's going to be informed by, build upon, and fill a gap in extant literature, and it's going to be public and accessible. So one of the main goals of this is, as you're conducting your research, your SoTL project, is to plow it back into your own teaching. So what did I learn? Let me make those changes in my classroom, and let me disseminate it to a community of practitioners, like everyone here, who can then learn from what I was doing. So, for example, if you're interested in how might asking my students to create case scenarios enhance their problem-solving skills, that could be an activity-focused project. If you're asking questions like, in what ways has student performance shifted since changing assessments from true and false and multiple choice to include more open-ended, short answer, or essay questions, that could be an assessment-focused project. Might you ask that, might providing my students with guiding questions to answer as they read assigned articles, how does that improve their overall understanding of the material? That would be a teaching focus. And why might having students work at tables and in groups enhance their engagement compared with more traditional chair or desk arrangements would be a learning environment focus. So just some examples. Anything and everything is kind of open to a SoTL project as it relates to your teaching and your students' learning. So why do we do all of this? Well, it's going to foster deeper pedagogical awareness. It's going to help revitalize ourselves as teachers and our teaching itself. It's going to help us move beyond anecdote and observation to introduce scholarly perspectives and processes to our teaching. It's going to, again, help for more systematic and intentional pedagogical decisions, course design, assessments, etc. As I just said, it's going to help with program and classroom program assessments. And it's going to help generate and disseminate evidence-based teaching practices to improve teaching and learning. Like we've already started by coming to this meeting and with the first cohort of the SoTL Circle for CPH, creating a community of practitioners. It's going to help inform academic policy discussions. And of course, it's going to benefit our students' learning, development, and success. So I will send this PowerPoint over as soon as possible. So I'm not going to actually go into these resources, but you can always visit the CATS SoTL webpage, which has a lot of resources for you, in addition to all the different programs, one of which I want to highlight is the umbrella IRB. So while you're conducting your project, getting everything set up, you could actually also come to us. We have an existing protocol with IRB, the Institutional Review Board, where we actually act as the IRB to approve this type of research. So we've kind of created this, what we think of a holistic one-stop shop for SoTL here at Temple, which of course you can take advantage of. So SoTL circles themselves are 12-part cohort-based series. It's for everyone. So if you're looking to take a first step into this type of work, or if you're looking to hone your existing educational scholarship skills, it's going to help you design your study from start to finish, or help you progress along wherever you might be with your project. And it's going to help catalyze completing the necessary procedures to conduct human subjects research. So making sure that we've finished our ethical training, the city collaborative institutional training initiative, the IRB protocols, et cetera, et cetera. So just as a quick glance, again, they're 12-part series. So from a kind of 30,000 foot up look at this, session 1, we're going to meet, welcome introductions, and set goals. Sessions 2 through 6, we get through that workbook, and we are going to discuss during the cohort and then have in and out of circle activities. Session 7, and I want to highlight this, it's an informal progress report. Just where are you along with meeting your goals, the work, et cetera, et cetera. We go back to the workbook and in and out of circle activities for sessions 8 and 11. And then session 12 is another progress report, goal setting, next steps, and concluding activities. And I want to note here that even though it's the final session, we're talking about future goal settings and next steps because one, you are always welcome and free to seek out the CAT SoTL services, of course, beyond this partnership and beyond the SoTL Circle itself. But as we are developing this process, we are currently engaged in a continuation model. So let's say you start for the fall of 2025. You'll then have the opportunity in the spring and moving forward, just like this group has been doing, to join past cohorts in these kind of informal monthly meetings to help us keep motivated, to keep the progress growing, and to help work on collaboratively on other joint projects we might decide to do as a group. And so as these continuation models continue to grow, we'll have more and more people. And so we're kind of thinking about like a train the trainer model, but more on that later. So that is SoTL and what the SoTL Circle and the process looks like and the partnership. So thank you so much. I hope to see you at our next SoTL Circle, and I look forward to working with you. So I will stop sharing my screen.
Thanks, Benjamin. And just so folks know, this is, I don't know if we can see it. There's a copy of the book. It's not that, it's not like it's a 400-page book. So I just want to talk about sort of the entry costs that are associated. Like, you know, if you join the SoTL Circle, it's not like all of a sudden there's 300 more pages of reading a week that you're throwing into your I've been a long time. I wasn't a member of this year's SoTL Circle, but I'm a longtime fan of the work and have done some trainings in the past. For our members of this year's SoTL Circle, I'm curious. You know, each of you or some of you, if you can respond and say, you know, had you engaged in the scholarship of teaching and learning before, and if so. What did you learn about SoTL by being in the SoTL Circle? And if not, you know, what did you learn about doing this type of scholarship that you know, that came out of this experience? Tulay, I see you also have your hand up.
Yes.
Real quick.
So
Yeah.
thank you for putting this together. It's great, always great to hear different ideas, project ideas. So Benjamin, I believe this is exactly the same circle that I completed last summer, right? 12 session. Okay, great. So I just want to share my, as an alumni of this circle, I want to share my experience. Out of that circle that we completed last summer with the guidance from Benjamin, I got 2 approval from the umbrella IRB for my 2 teaching and scholarship studies. One is completed, the second one is in progress. So the first study was about the study abroad learning experiences, qualitative study. And the second study is about the teaching format versus academic achievement, in-person versus virtual, exactly the same class, the same class size. So this is a great program. I'm glad that I took my time away during summer and completed it. So if you didn't, I highly suggest everyone, if someone went through this program last summer. Thank you, Benjamin, again.
Thank you. Thank you. And so we you know, I do want to also say we are going to have some Q&A for the end, and also as you know, ideas come up and questions come up, we also do want to, you know, invite you. You can also, if you don't want to ask them out loud, you can always put them into the chat. And so I see that we have Cheryl. You've got a question in there. We will get to that question. That can be first on our list for the start of the Q&A as well. So. So it's with regard to the members of the CPH Circle. Can you just tell us a little bit about sort of where you came in with regard to SoTL experience, and you know, some things you learned about doing this kind of research?
Okay, I guess. Ryan, you gonna go?
Sure. So I've written a few articles on like best practices for online education and human sexuality education, but I was not familiar with the acronym SoTL, or the idea that there were, you know, journals dedicated to SoTL topics out there. So it really helped me to see it as a little bit larger of, you know, not to diminish the, you know, what we do, but I just kind of thought I was publishing something that I didn't really consider it like science. It was like, oh, here's a lesson plan, or here's, you know, this 10 ideas for online education, whatever. But taking the SoTL Circle sort of helped me to see that that this is research, this is an academic pursuit, and something that I could feel a sense of value, kind of contributing my time to, and putting it out there for others to potentially benefit from.
Lisa, you had unmuted, and Kathy, I see you have as well. So either of you want to go ahead, Kathy?
Okay, so for me, this journey really began with a reset. It reminded me really of how important the stakeholders in the educational process are. It just allowed me to refocus on the importance of the learner. So when you think about being an educator, a faculty member, sometimes you think so much about content. What content am I delivering? What's the type of content? But this really made me reset and think about the reset was a change going back to the student center focus. Like their voices were central to this learning process. It reminded me that teaching isn't just about what we know. It's also truly about what our students are learning. So that was a real reset for me in the beginning of the process.
Lisa, real quick, and then Barb, I see you have your hand up, so we'll.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, just how I came into all of this. So I have a colleague that had been working on ideas around ungrading, and we had some conversation about it, and I was intrigued and interested in that, did some additional reading on it. And definitely, like, so my role in the School of Social Work is actually as a research assistant professor. So while I teach, my main role is to do research. And I think, like Ryan, I don't think I necessarily thought about like what I did in the teaching environment as something to do research on. But as I started utilizing these kind of ungrading strategies and looking at the assessments that I used, and then watching kind of and observing what was happening in my classes, both with my students and myself, in terms of like how I was planning lessons, what kinds of things we were doing, and how it really shifted the experience for the students and for me as an instructor. I got really interested in trying to understand, like, why was that? Like, what was actually happening? And in the midst of that, this opportunity came along, and I got involved with the SoTL Circle. I mean, I will say, to Cheryl Hyde's question, the homework's not that bad. But anyway, there's, what it did was it allowed me to kind of like have these like broader conversations and really think about this in a more systematic way, right? There was like what I was doing, what my colleagues were doing, and then how do we really demonstrate that this is an effective method, to do this? Or is it an effective method, or does it just feel good and that's why we're doing it? And so I think that's really what I came into this hoping to learn about. And like I said, my project actually shifted quite a bit from what I learned from my own experience and what I learned, both through the process of the workbook and those discussions, but also from working with my colleagues. So, yeah.
All right, so really good. Barb, hi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Barb Little. I am a nursing faculty instructor, and I just completed my DMP in December. So prior, during the years that I've been in the nursing department, I've mainly been in the clinical setting. And yeah, I taught didactic, guest speaker, this and that, but it was more in that venue. So my project was actually trying to engage students in the importance of emergency preparedness. And I conducted a quality improvement project, which will hopefully be implemented next fall, related to how well students are prepared, although we don't want to see this in the hospital, but how well students are prepared and know about codes. And obviously, when you're in clinical, you certainly for practice do not want a patient to code on you. But what I'm looking at is for my part in this, as kind of I guess, a new person teaching classes, which I teach adult health assessment. I've co-taught because of the large classroom. Right now, I'm teaching intro to the nursing profession, also co-teaching because of the number of students. Mainly, my focus was public health nursing with the students and healthy lifestyles, population health in that realm. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. But with my project that I've completed, more or less, it needs to be tweaked a little bit. And what I wanted to incorporate, and I'm not sure if it can be done, but an escape room type activity to kind of keep students engaged with this learning experience. I kind of put that in there, but it wasn't enough fun. They had to complete the module, they had to do a quiz, then they could escape into the next section. So I guess I'm putting in, I welcome all of you to with your knowledge and your foresight into how your teaching is going. And this is my first rodeo. I actually, to be honest, when I signed up, I didn't realize this was the kind of format. But now that I'm here, I'm thinking, yeah, this is going to benefit me to that degree. So I guess learning how to best connect with this certain population of nursing students, how to keep them engaged. I'm having a little trouble with my freshmen. I've never taught that level. So, just creating my PowerPoints or whatever help or things that I learned from it. But I would like to kind of tweak this particular project that I did complete, maybe make it a little more interesting on that facet. With the code cart, they learn about what's in the code cart, what medications they need to use, patient safety, and then the roles and responsibilities of those people that are in that sector if someone has an MI. And also 48 hours ahead of time, a lot of people show symptoms that something's not right, something's going on, whether it's their vital signs or whatever. So they were learning about that prelude that may lead that person in that direction. So I guess I'm just here to observe, listen, focus, and see how I can tweak my project to make it better for my students.
Thank you, Barbara.
Sorry, that was a little too long and detailed. I'm
Well,
sorry.
thank you very
Now
much,
the
but
meeting's over.
I do appreciate and for the record, no, the meeting is not over yet. So, but
Okay, I was just saying because I talked so long.
so
It's
I think,
almost over. I'm
but
sorry.
it does bring to the point that I do think what we do want this to be is a community of practice, and we want some peer-to-peer mentorship to continue as people are sort of self-identifying as interested in this work, and we have people at various stages and various experiences with doing this kind of work to be there for either formal or informal kind of interaction, as well as possibly, as Lisa was talking about, folks who are really interested in just sort of supporting the infrastructure of doing this work and maybe a little more agnostic on the topic areas. But that gets to the next question for our panelists is just, it raises some of the questions, what did you learn about your students through putting together a SoTL project, and what did you learn about yourself as an instructor?
I can go ahead with that. I think, Rosa, I left the SoTL, or I'm still in it, but I had like 3 really unique takeaways from it. As an instructor, I teach a lot of management type courses, and my students, they measure KPIs. So in industry, we develop key performance indicators, and they establish some metrics, and our students develop these dashboards for these KPIs. And my biggest takeaway was like SoTL is sort of like industry with these KPIs. It shares some of the same emphasis, which is those evidence-based or measurable results that focus on continuous improvement. So both rely on the stakeholders, whether it's the faculty and the student or industry, the employees and the customer or the patient. So the emphasis on the measured results is really important. That was like one of my biggest takeaways. And the second takeaway was improving and disseminating your findings. So I think like when I think about organizations and their KPIs, they share those KPIs throughout the organization. You know, what are our metrics? What's on our dashboard for today? And I thought with the SoTL, we can kind of like share our metrics or our findings with our academic community. So both of them really had that as a driver. And I also think as an educator, it made me be a little bit more creative and, you know, intentionally thinking about these things. So I've been a little bit more creative in how I approach teaching, and I'm always now looking for how do I measure it as well. So that was kind of my takeaways from it.
Ryan, Lisa?
I can mention, so for my specific project, I was not necessarily changing anything I was doing. You know, I was sort of looking, or am in the process of looking back at data that had already been collected. But I will allude to what, you know, several other people have mentioned, and Kathy just now, like, it's just a good place to generate ideas, and you kind of see other people, you know, okay, I'm stuck on this activity or something like that. And it's just a good opportunity to kind of help people brainstorm, work through stuff, and maybe it ends up in their project, maybe it doesn't, but it's just a really good experience to be around other educators who are working through similar things that you are, maybe not exactly the same, but it still just spurs so many ideas and that creativity that you mentioned, Kathy.
Yeah, and I'll just echo that. You know, I do think that the experience for me as an instructor and thinking through like what I was trying to achieve with my students was a very different experience working with people who are not in my discipline. And that actually turned out to be a really great thing. This is no disrespect to anyone in my discipline, but you know, it just, you know, kind of it put me in a position where I had to kind of, I don't know, justify like what I was thinking and what I was doing and why, which brought me really, really aligned the work I wanted to do with my own social work values and ethics, as well as looking at our competencies, you know, from our accrediting body, and then sort of weighing all that against like all the other things that all of my colleagues have to do, and really seeing, you know, finding new ways, I think, to look at that, because, you know, everybody's not trying to, you know, look at just the social work things. It was like, well, here's the different values in athletic training, and here's the different ones in, you know, this department. And so it really makes you think a lot about what you're doing and why. And I agree, it just allows you to do a lot of brainstorming with other people who are really invested in making a great classroom experience for students and being better at our own craft, but in service to the students. And I think in terms of my students, I think, you know, one of the things that I really noticed a lot when I started talking about like ungrading in my classes, right? And I do that in sort of a hybrid way. There's some things that are still graded and some things that are not, was that a lot of students were just terrified of this idea. You know, because they're very grade motivated, and like that's like how they've been taught that that's how I know if I'm doing the right things. And, you know, trying to approach that in a different way was really challenging for a lot of the students. And talking with this group, as well as talking, you know, with some of my colleagues in social work, helped me to think about how to do that, again, both systematically so that I could see, is it actually changing anything, but also, you know, in terms of thinking about, what are we really trying to achieve? Like, what do I really want the students to learn? And how do I sort of free them to do that in some way so that we're really getting at the most important parts of the learning process and not necessarily being overly focused on the things that can be really oppressive to some people. So, you know, this was just a great experience to do that. So I highly recommend it, as I said. So it was super.
Well, thanks, Lisa. And so, you know, and you had came into this sort of, you know, as you said, you know, you were a research professor, and you know, and took this as an opportunity to learn, you know, more about your role as an instructor. For those of on the panel who are instructors who are getting more engaged in scholarship and doing research, you know, what did you learn about, you know, being engaged in you know, as a researcher, in being involved in this project and in the circle?
Well, I think one of the things that really helped me, and you know, I like doing research. I've done some research, but you know, I'm much more comfortable in the classroom. So having this group, again, you know, like I said, helped me to hear from other people, but it also serves as a bit of an accountability group, to keep me on track. You know, I will disclose I have ADHD, so if I'm really interested in something, I dive right in, as Ross can attest to probably from a few things. But if, you know, if my attention starts to wane, then sometimes I lose track of things. But having these meetings set up really kept me on task, to make sure that I worked through the steps, because you know I wanted to do the project, but I also didn't want to show up with nothing, you know, to report each week. So it was really just a great, in addition to everything that we learned, it was just nice having those regularly scheduled meetings, to have that accountability.
And for me, I think as coming into it, the experience really has connected my teaching with research, allowing me to really focus on that scholarship of teaching, because in my professional community, I'm part of a research network, and we're always looking at best practices for the professional in terms of telemedicine or privacy and security. And so we're looking at very small research projects that focus on content that I can bring back to more content into the classroom. And this really was that reset for me, that it's a scholarship is more than just through the lens that I had currently been looking at it. So to me, it was a lot of a lot of fun, a lot of creativity on things that we naturally do as educators, but we don't necessarily do it as systematic. Like in my classroom, I know when things are not working. I know when assessment is working or different approaches are not working, but now to step back and actually ask the question, why, or can I delve into it a little bit more? I found that curiosity to be exciting.
Excellent. So, and some of you have touched on the idea, and touched on the fact that, you know, the opportunity to work across with folks from other departments, with other places, you know, other programs within the college was of value. Any further thoughts about how being in the SoTL Circle helped you better understand sort of the college and, you know, your colleagues within the college?
Well, certainly, I think it's easy to just kind of be in your little silo and not really pay attention to the other things that are happening. So, from that perspective, yeah, I mean, you know, I have heard about a lot of these disciplines or programs, but didn't know a lot about them necessarily. So, I think the mix of people we had helped me to kind of learn a little bit more about not just what, you know, they are, but like what happens in there. Like, what is that about? What are people working towards in that regard, you know, for these degrees and whatnot. I think that was really helpful. But the thing that I think for me that stuck the most was that, and this is really how my project actually reshaped, because the thing that really ended up happening in my project was that I started looking at how and if this ungrading methodology that I was using and my colleagues are using helps to shape pre-professional identity of social workers. And everybody in the SoTL Circle has some kind of professional identity that they're working to develop with their students. And so even though, you know, they might be looking at different things, the conversations that we had about that, and actually even some of the stuff in the readings, really reshaped the way I thought about that and how to look at it in social work. How do I measure that? And you know, I had many conversations. I know Kathy and I talked many times walking back and forth to the SoTL Circle about the things she was doing and some of the other work that was happening. Ryan was really helpful. You know, Kim Patrick was in there. She was very helpful. I mean, everybody that was in the group was remarkably helpful in terms of talking about what that means in their discipline. And that really helped to shape what I ultimately did with the project, which was really far from where I thought I was going when I had it in there. So it was incredibly beneficial. And yeah, again, I would highly recommend. and I want to say to what Kathy said too, it really was a lot of fun. And also to, you know, I think Ryan's point, it does hold you a little more accountable. And, you know, we all need a little bit of that sometimes, I think. So.
Oh, I say ditto to what Lisa just said, everything there. And even like with Ryan, because Ryan was talking about a writing intensive SoTL project. I teach a writing intensive course, and just the knowledge of how they roll out their writing intensive, I really gained a lot of information and knowledge. I also found that other colleagues in the circle had similar topics to what I was looking at, like professionalism and communication. And Beth and Jamie, they had shared their publications with me, and it was a very, very similar. So it was really, really helpful. And the one piece that Lisa just talked about, being part of the circle, keeps you really engaged in a project. It allowed me to stay on target, so to speak, with my SoTL project because it fostered that accountability and commitment. I found myself being committed to the group, the process, and also to Ben, because Ben was from the CAT was just a fabulous facilitator. I mean, he was like the full package. He every single week he really followed up. He was a great facilitator, and he actually cared. Like he really put that caring aspect into it. He would say to us, "Be kind to yourself." So I like took that very, very seriously. I said, "Be kind to myself." Okay, I'm going to restructure this timeline that I have for my project and make it more realistic. So it was really a lot of fun.
So I wanted to give this opportunity. You know, Ben, you had sort of said a little preview at the beginning in your presentation about kind of the what's next. Wanted to get a little bit of sense from you about structurally what's next, and then I want to just talk a little bit with our panelists and ask them about what would be helpful for them as next steps and how we can continue to support you and keep the momentum going for the work that you've started engaging in through the circle.
Sure, thank you. So for the first cohort that is in the continuation phase, we actually had a meeting. Our monthly meeting was yesterday, and we started talking about how in April, because classes we think will be settled and finalized for the fall, or schedules that is. So in about a month, we will start setting up meetings for the fall, and that's the step for everyone else that we are going to start figuring out people's schedules and setting a time and going through that process, and then we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
For the rest of you, as far as what other things would be helpful for you to help you continue doing this work?
So for myself, unfortunately, this semester my teaching schedule clashes with the the time that worked best for everybody else. So I haven't been able to attend those meetings. But knowing that, you know, there might be the opportunity to sort of pick back up in the fall is exciting to be able to potentially have that opportunity to kind of jump back in. And you know, my hope is over the summer to kind of wrap this project up and put it out to journals and see what happens. But it's just knowing that the opportunity to maybe work on something new or a continuation of this project with, you know, again, the folks that I went through it with is great. So that's something I'm looking forward to.
Wonderful. One thing I do want to bring to folks, I'm going to put into the chat just a quick little Qualtrics. You know, as Ben mentioned, you know, in addition to having the inaugural class, we want to start a new one. And so if you're interested in SoTL generally, if you're interested in being part of the SoTL Circle specifically, if you're interested in possible other kinds of events, I mean, one of the things I think would be really nice to have are kind of lunch and learns as well that may not be part of the formal curriculum, but people can share their projects, people can share their insights, or we can talk about you know, articles and new you know, new breaking insights about the scholarship of teaching and learning. You know, we're going to have, as Lisa, as you mentioned, you know, walking back to your office next year is going to look a whole lot different. And so, you know, the opportunity for people just to kind of informally gather to talk about these, you know, to talk about this and to be regularly meeting about this, I think is going to be really exciting. So we're going to, you know, so we're going to open things up here to the Q&A section. I see Cheryl, you had your hand up, and then we have Melody's a question in the chat, which will be next. So Cheryl.
Thank you, Ross. I just wanted to first thank everybody for sharing their experiences. It's a little weird sort of hearing about this. I've been sort of doing this kind of research for about 30 years, but it never had a title, you know, so you're just like, it's like, oh, okay, now it's a thing. But what I am most struck by is the relational aspect of this circle. Like the projects are interesting, right? And are helpful, but it's the connection and the sort of affirmation of the importance of teaching that seems to have happened. And so I am wondering, and I do sit on the college's teaching excellence committee, and we, you know, every December we run a symposium and a bunch of folks come and it's a lot of fun. But sort of thoughts on how this can be beyond these circles. And you mentioned the sort of lunch and learn, but I find that we're sort of at a moment in the college and with a number of our different units where can we take advantage of, you know, moving into the new building, having initiatives like these SoTL circles and other things to really kind of elevate this, you know, this sort of relational and this collegial aspect that I think a lot of us have been missing. And so and Ross, you touched on it, but I was interested in if there are other plans, other thoughts to sort of expand what we're seeing here.
Yes, you know, and at the same time, the short answer is yes, there is.
Okay, that's all I needed. Yeah, okay.
There it is. That's the old lawyer joke. Is
Right. Yes, no, maybe.
Well, did somebody know did somebody know who won the game last night? The answer to that is yes.
Yes.
So, but but yeah, absolutely. I do think that this is one way we want to just to find opportunities to bring people together within the college. You know, this centers around this particular area of interest. I certainly see there being a number of others that are going to be coming forward and that we're going to want to try to foster. Again, I think it has to be driven by community interests and community as community members identify areas, I want to see how we can support that. And so, this was a place I think that really sort of connected very clearly up to promotion, up to our commitment to teaching excellence, in a very distinct way. And so, this was a first. This was a first step in that. And we also don't want this to be exclusively limited, as you note, to just, to being enrolled in a course or a program. We want this to have informal opportunities as well as sort of the formality of going through a training. So thank you, Cheryl. Want to get to the question here, and then Lisa, is this a comment, or is this on the current?
Yeah, I really just wanted to respond to Cheryl's question as well. So, right now, like I'm in university-wide, like faculty learning community about ungrading. I think Susan Connor's also in that group with me. And it just occurs to me, being in that there might be things like that we could do informally here, where it might be around assessment methods we're looking at, or teaching methods we're looking at, where, we might find people who are interested in those same things and kind of gathering to do these kind of learning communities about that. And that might not need to be formal, but it could be a way to, work across disciplines and do that. And, I know, like in the SoTL Circle that I've been in, one of the things I've really wanted to do is figure out, since, as I mentioned, this whole thing about professional identity is like, is there a way for us to do some sort of collaborative work on that as well, and potentially publish together? So I do think that natural opportunities, but it does take, some leadership, right? And so whether that's going to be coming from the faculty themselves, or if there's some way that can be coming out of, CAT, or if it can be something that's coming out of your office, Ross. I mean, I think there's a lot of people really interested in these things. I mean, time's always an issue, but I think if we can, kind of find the way to frame it, I do think, people will come. I mean, people do this stuff across the university, so why not do it, within CPH, SSW as well.
Well, thank you, Lisa. And I do want to try and figure out what, any ways that we can to reduce administrative or structural barriers to getting these things going. So I welcome, your insights on what kinds of things might be valued in supporting these things, as well as sort of, directions that we want to sort of take those kind of support structures. Both Tulay and Melody have similar questions for you, Ben, which is sort of we created this CPH SoTL Circle, but y'all have been doing these circles through the CAT for a while. So if folks have been through the CAT SoTL Circle, can they be, how do we fold them into engagement going forward?
Sure. I just emailed myself because if I don't have it in Outlook, I will forget to do it. So it's a to-do list. Melody and Tulay, I will email you and we'll talk. But I think the answer is yes, absolutely. I'll have to check with the group to make sure it's okay. But presuming that it is, I think it makes sense to join the continuation models for sure.
So if it is a limited space, maybe we can give priority to others. That's why I also asked this question, if you have limited capacity for discussions.
We'll be good, but that'll be a good problem to have when we get there. But for now, we're fine.
And there's lots of different sized meeting rooms in the coming in Paley, so we're looking forward to figuring out the reservation systems on those new spaces. What other questions do folks have? All right. Well, again, I want to thank all of you for attending. I want to thank our panelists for being willing to take a chance and join the SoTL Circle, and stay in touch with regard. We will stay in touch with those of you who've responded, to the survey, And keep an eye out for new events coming and invitations to join the next SoTL Circle. And enjoy the rest of your afternoon and the beautiful weekend that we have coming ahead. So thanks again, everyone. Be well.